Right, let's talk a little bit of Israel. So when TJ and I set the topics yesterday, no one had been killed yet, or at least no leaders of any groups had been killed. And so we were going to talk about how the U.S. State Department issued a warning to Israel, kind of saying, hey, we're not going to stop sending you weapons, but like maybe we might have to. So I don't know, maybe let some aid into Gaza. And that kind of reversed Israel's course, and they started letting some aid into northern Gaza, which would have been a really interesting story to talk about, of how all of the people who say, oh, well, Biden can't actually influence Bibi Netanyahu. I know, yes, he can. Even just hinting that it might happen got him to change course. But then today, it is reported that Hamas's leader, I should have had his name up. Is it Yahya? Is that how we pronounce his name?
No.
I don't know. We're going to call him.
I've never
Sinwar.
figured out how. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But he was killed, and the way in which he was killed, I don't know, guys. Have you guys read like what happened?
No, what happened?
No, all I saw was the headline because, like I said, grading hell.
So it wasn't a like targeted strike. It wasn't based on intelligence. He was just in a house that 19-year-old IDF soldiers were walking by. A firefight ensued, and they killed him. They didn't realize it was him until afterwards. They just randomly killed him.
Really?
That is what is being reported. Yes. Which is so fishy. Like, this whole thing smells to high heaven, because apparently he'd been missing for a little while. He'd been incommunicado, and then all of a sudden it's just, oh, we killed him, and these random 19-year-olds did it, and it smells to high heaven. I don't know what the conspiracy theory is, but there is like just so much fertile ground for conspiracy theory here, because it is kind of crazy. I don't think this actually does anything. Like, I don't think this changes a single thing, but it is one of those events that could change things, maybe. I see TJ's pulling something up here.
Yeah, I was going to pull up this article talking about a drone video shows Sinwar's final moments. The Israeli military says Israeli Defense Force spokesperson Daniel Hagari played the video in a news briefing on Thursday. The edited clip shows a drone going into a damaged building where a person who the IDF says is Sinwar can be seen sitting on a chair. The figure's body is positioned away from the drone, but they appear to be looking toward the unmanned craft. The person's face is obscured, and they appear to be sitting alone. Hagari and Sinwar have been shot in the hand, as the edited IDF video points to his hand. The video shows the figure holding what the IDF highlights as a piece of wood, which the person lobs in the direction of the drone. Israeli says the drone later discovered Sinwar's body in the rubble of the building, which was struck by an Israeli tank on Wednesday. Only after sending in soldiers on foot did the Israeli military identify the man as a Hamas leader. Yeah, it doesn't say why this took place, like why they were scoping out.
Yeah, so what I just said, I got from an article by Axios. And I'll pull it up. I had it up here somewhere. Of course, now I'm completely missing it.
This is ripe territory for a Kathy conspiracy. You know that we got here.
You've seen me scribbling.
Yeah, this is right up her alley. What's but no,
that's what I'm always doing when I'm staring off doing nothing. What I'm doing is I'm writing down my brain. Like,
does it bother you that so many conspiracy theorists are fucking stupid? Because conspiracies can be really fun. They can be really so fun and so interesting.
My Kate Middleton one was rock solid. Like, I know it was bullcrap, but it was so fucking good.
So this is what I had read from Axios, that an infantry unit of 19-year soldiers were on a routine patrol in the area, exchanged fire with 3 armed militants and killed them. It was a coincidental encounter that wasn't based on intelligence. The soldiers realized they might have killed the most wanted person in the Middle East only after looking at his body. So that's a little different than what CNN is reporting. Kind of confusing. I kind of just trusted the source there.
Well, I mean,
I trusted the source. I mean, very much didn't trust what was being said, but I trusted at least That part was true.
I
Or at
mean, it
least
could.
that's what Israel was claiming. Ever since Israel told me the calendar was a list of fucking terrorist plots,
Yeah.
I don't believe a goddamn I never really believed a goddamn thing they say, but that was kind of the end of any belief of anything they said.
Yeah.
But like it's weird, TJ. It's weird.
Kathy, what you got for us? What you got?
So many things. To the nerds out there, shout out to Sun Tzu, Art of War, okay? Because I have a conspiracy theory, so everyone buckle up.
Let's go. Let's go.
Okay. I'll open with, did either of you watch The West Wing? I assume you did because you're nerds, right?
No. Well, I'm not a nerd, so I didn't watch it. I wouldn't know what
Says the man in the Umbrella Corporation t-shirt.
But no, I haven't.
Tell me you're kidding. Tell me you're kidding. Tell me you're kidding.
No, I really haven't watched The West Wing.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
that needs to be remedied immediately. Like that is your homework.
Bye, guys.
I will grade you. No, like I'm not even kidding. Like there are episodes of The West Wing I have incorporated into my class because there's such good representations of concepts of government. Like, like the kids get all excited. I'm like, we're watching a TV show, and then I hand them a worksheet, and they get mad.
No.
It's great. It's great. But there's an episode in The West Wing where they plan an assassination of a foreign leader that they don't want to have responsibility for, but they need to happen. And that, I think, is what just happened. So what I wrote down, and I'll just kind of go in the list of how my brain dumped this out so you can see where I'm going. I wrote, Sinwar is dead. We have a lame duck, unpopular president. Now, beloved to history, most likely. This is a yikes, but true, but likely a CIA hit. Then I do the Abdul Sharif episode of The West Wing, and I go, the two stories go together. So, John, your story about the 30 days before we have to, like, stop sending you weapons, so let some aid into Palestine. Pretty please, right? And the next day, a random assassination of the guy we've been looking for all along, 3 weeks before or 20 days before the election. That I'm sorry, you're not going to convince me that this was anything but a CIA hit. This was literally BB. Listen, I got nothing to fucking lose, right? And I will happily blow the shit out of people. So you can do this, and I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll finish your fucking war. I'm going to go kill this motherfucker for you. You're going to let the aid into Palestine, and it's going to look like I ended this motherfucking war 3 weeks before Americans go to the polls. Suck my dick.
I kind of have to concur with that being the most likely. Like, that sounds a hell of a lot more likely than a bunch of 19-year-olds randomly walked into his house and shot him. That seems a lot more likely.
When you think about it like a chessboard, I'll move this piece, you move this piece, you move this piece, right? Everyone's starting to talk about Donald Trump as a lunatic. BB's been using the war to get Donald Trump elected. That's looking less likely. Kamala Harris just wiped the floor with Fox News, essentially, right? Nail coffin.
I love this. I actually love this. Because look, what we were saying, the conflicting narratives. Odd. First off, so I understand with fog of war, news is hard to spread sometimes, but this happened less than 20 or fewer than 24 hours ago, and you already have two different stories. I guess supposedly they could converge because you could have an infantry unit that had an armor division, like a tank that happened to be there. That could happen, and maybe there's just one part of each story. But the fact that there's two major coincidences at the same time, not possible. There's no chance at all that they just happen to find Sinwar the day after Biden puts out the, hey, 30 days honestly, I was upset at the 30 days because you didn't need it. I was going to read a statement by CARE. CARE was like, well, why do you need 30 more days? They've already proven what they're going to do. Just stop the aid now and threaten them. But this does make more sense if Biden or whoever is like, hey, we're going to, act on our own accord anyway. But the fact that they find this guy the day afterward and that, what was the other one? That happened the day after, and it was a major figure at the same time on the same day after the initial threat. Yeah, there's no chance that happened. There's no chance at all. I kind of like this. What do you think?
I have an addendum. Because to your point about how the two stories might go together, it's pieces because things usually break in pieces. I think that could be correct. I think perhaps yesterday or a day before, in one of these Israeli strikes that happens every 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
They probably hit a building that they took him out, right? They probably realized they took him out, and it was probably American intelligence because we share intelligence, right? So America knew he was dead the second Israel knew it was dead. That's the bilateral military arrangement that we have, right? So Biden put like, here's what we do. I was like, because it's very likely that Kamala Harris is going to be replacing me in a couple of months. So this is how it's going to play out. You understand, right? Put him in some rubble, because you said that one article said he was found in some rubble after they just realized. So I think maybe a drone strike hit the building. They realized he was in there. So they staged some bullshit. These kids happened upon him. So they kill some random Palestinians, because that's not exactly out of character for them. And they put the two things together, and Biden releases the whole, we're giving you a 30 days notice. And the next day, oh, look, we're done all of a sudden. Yay.
That's great too.
I'm just like
I'm
imagining myself like in like the situation room, right? And it's just like, wait, you're telling me that our indiscriminate killing of random Palestinians actually killed the terrorists? Are you like that wasn't the goal at all? But what a coincidence!
Well, to that point, there's no such thing as a coincidence in politics. There's not. Okay.
First time for everything. What that scenario right there, it reminded me of two pop culture references I'm going to make. First one is the wolf from Pulp Fiction, when everything goes to shit and they have to call in the wolf, and so they call in Biden, the old wolf or whatever.
Biden will be the wolf of American history.
The wolf of Washington, the wolf of Pennsylvania Avenue. But that also, it reminded me, I know John will get this reference, I don't know if Kathy, if you will, but there's a little video game that I happen to like called Red Dead Redemption, and at the very end, was that a good oh my god or a bad one? I don't know.
I have two brothers.
Okay, all right.
Continue your story.
So, at the end of Red Dead Redemption, Dutch commits suicide. The person John has been sent to kill. And when the Pinkertons show up to find Dutch's body, they give John a bunch of shit like, oh, I guess you didn't have the guts to kill him. And they're like, give me your gun, John. And they take it and they shoot Dutch's body on the ground and say, trust me, it looks better in the report that way. That's what I thought too when you're going with this. Is like, all right, we got him, but someone shoot him a couple times. It's going to look better to the press when we release it. I kind of like that.
You know what's really funny? Is I kind of thought of that while I was scribbling my little conspiracy down. I actually pay attention when my brother stuff.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That is fantastic.
That's the other one. I think it's Portal. The cake is real. The cake is real. And like I put that in one of my PowerPoints. Or the cake is a lie.
Cake is a lie.
Whatever. It's been a fucking long time, right? But I remember I like made one of those little subtle jokes in one of my economics PowerPoints one of the days, and like made one of the kids like love me. They're like, Miss Kid, you understand? I was like, I don't really. It's just a joke. Like I get the joke. I don't play the game. Like just stop.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear any more about it. The other one's Assassin's Creed. I was like, please stop talking to me about Assassin's Creed because we're learning the French Revolution, and they're like, hey, you know Assassin's Creed? I was like, if you say Assassin's Creed.
Oh, maybe you should play Assassin's Creed sometime.
I'm
just saying, I never played. I know, but it might be. I mean, if so, I don't know. It could go along pretty well. Like, imagine how cool they think you are if you play Assassin's Creed.
I can hear the voice, Miss Cannon. It's not traumatic or anything.
Yeah. So John, what do you think the aftermath is going to be? Like, what do you think is going to happen? This is a pretty weird turn of events.
So that's the interesting part to all of this. So I'm going to assume, for the sake of argument, that what is being reported is true. Our conspiracy theory isn't correct. This was a massive coincidence, and no one was planning for his death. And it seems like, if that's the case, Biden and Harris are taking the bull by the horns. And Harris released her statement, the Obama, I killed Osama bin Laden. She did the whole statement. We're like, oh yeah, we got him. We got our guy. And they're probably pushing for this to be the end. And they're like, yo, BB, you got the guy. You got your scalp. End this shit. However, BB, unsurprisingly, this might come as a surprise to some people, but BB says the war isn't over.
What?
And
what?
I know, right?
Because he's going
he
into
said this is
Lebanon.
the day after Hamas starts now in Gaza, you know, and it's like the thing that he's not saying is who takes over, because we know he wants it to be Israel, and that was the entire point of all of this, and I do think that is what Bibi's going to be pushing for, and what I do suspect is, you know, this is a big, I don't know, but I'm just guessing, is that Israel is going to try and annex Gaza. and the Biden administration is going to try and sell it as an end to the war, and a victory for the good freedom fighters of the world. And that I don't really know what the Republican side to that is, but I think that that's the most likely way this all ends up playing out. But it really depends, like, if they're able to, like, if this was a hit by the CIA and they have someone installed in Hamas that's going to, like, more or less peacefully transfer the power, that's probably what's going to happen. But again, this is a very just like guess. Like I don't know, because like I could equally believe this was a CIA hit, or it was a total coincidence no one saw coming, and everyone's just making a power play right now. I don't know.
Huh? I mean, it could be like like what Kathy was saying, that they were tipped off and acted on it, but the timing is just weird for that. Like the timing is just really odd. Yeah, I don't really know. It's like it does make you wonder, like, if this was something by Biden, this would have been more effective like a month ago. I feel like right now people have already voted. I mean, you don't want to wait till people after they vote to start doing this, unless they're feeling really desperate, unless they're not satisfied with the way the voting is going. We'll cover that in a little bit too. I mean, I don't know. We're speculating. Who knows what's going to happen? And the annexation of Gaza has always been on Israel's list. I don't know if the United States wants that or the United Nations wants that. And also, like, killing another high-level leader of Hamas or Hezbollah, so that's just been par for the course for Israel. So no skin off their teeth. And like Kathy mentioned, the incursion into Lebanon is what's on their mind right now, and fucking Iran. I mean, it's just like Israel's gotta look. They gotta be stopped. They can't be allowed to keep doing this anymore. I don't know. What do you think, Kathy?
Oh boy! I don't know if you've seen me scribbling.
I seen it. We synced it.
All right,
we synced it.
Well,
Smoke was rising from the paper. It was.
I ripped the paper actually by accident. I was so furiously writing. It's fine. Remember all those conspiracy theories about America's paying for Hamas and we did this and blah 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 blah, like that were on the internet, like I don't know, years ago, like in the middle of whatever. Like the right wing Looney Tunes were always like, the American government, we're funding Hamas, we're funding everything. We're like, you look at me like you don't know the people. You know the people. Okay, so I was thinking that, and we also know Reagan and everything, right? Because he did, in fact, install like Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden, and we were kind of famous for funding, like, some terrorist groups to overthrow some governments. It was sort of our jam for an entire, couple decades or so, or continuing. But to the point, continuing, right? So, like, what if we weren't funding Hamas, but we had like an Americans plotline version of it in Hamas, like where we had a secret agent like living in Hamas and like low-key pretending to be Hamas, and
we certainly have. If we don't have that, obviously that's just malpractice,
right? So that's what I'm saying. So like that's how it happened, right? And like boom, so like then so I don't know if you saw the Fox News interview with Kamala Harris, right? But she made a big, like, let me be clear, this will not be a continuation of the Biden administration, which had a like when she said it and the way she said it into response to the question she said it, it felt very like deeper than it, like she was sending a message to somebody specifically listening. And I think that might have been Benjamin Netanyahu. Like, I'm saying it here, but be clear, right? Because like she at that point probably knew he was dead, but they hadn't, gone through the steps of staging it the way they wanted, assuming my conspiracy is correct, right? To your point, like this is a hell of an October surprise. We got the terrorist, right? Like had Osama bin Laden been killed this time in October of 2012, like that election would have been a land fucking slide, right? Yeah. And so I wouldn't be worried about the early voting, to your point, because early voters know how they're voting. Like undecided voters don't vote early. Okay. Yeah. So like that, but they might be worried about what they're seeing in the returns. But to the point, your question, does the UN want Israel to annex Gaza? No, the UN's pretty clear, two-state solution. They lost Europe already and the two-state solution, right? And Kamala Harris is literally, we know the Republicans, like, will let Bibi Netanyahu annex Gaza because they're just gross and racist and disgusting and Palestinians are brown and that's enough, So it's very clear in this moment. Like I think you're going to see in the next 3 weeks, the lead up to election, Kamala Harris is going to talk big two-state solution, right? Like she's going to talk big. They did what they to retribution for October 7th. It may have taken a year and there may have been a lot of devastation, but now is the time. It fits right into her slogan to turn the page to an America with a less toxic rhetoric and turn the page to a two-state solution in Israel. Why don't I work for her?
But here's the problem, though. Why would Bibi do that? Like, there's no reason for him to want that to happen.
Benny Gantz is the reason.
What was that?
Benny Gantz is the reason. Bibi's unpopular in Israel. He's been facing historic protests. He's clinging to power to avoid bribery charges. He's lost control of his government. He only formed the coalition government so they could kill this motherfucker. This motherfucker is dead. Benny Gantz is going to go like on a vote of no confidence, call for elections. Bibi's out.
If that's true, then it works.
Yeah.
Like, but I struggle. So I was someone who
You're
was
just struggling with American competence. I know it's hard.
It's not even American competence. We're very competent at killing people. We're just less competent at like predicting the outcomes of killing people.
Consequences were bad.
Exactly. But the thing that I struggle with is that there isn't an immediate plan on both sides. If there was an immediate plan on both sides, I'd be with you. But what the White House is saying and what Netanyahu is saying are two different things right now. The White House is saying the war is over, and Netanyahu is saying the war is not over, motherfuckers.
Well, I know, but that's. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I just don't think there is communication there. So yeah, like if Netanyahu isn't going to be in power in the next couple of weeks, like maybe, but like I don't see it playing out in any way in the election, in time for the election, in a way that is beneficial to the White House, unless Israel just does a ceasefire. Like that's the only way it actually happens, if the ceasefire gets done, which I just don't see happening.
Yeah, that will not happen. I'm going to go ahead and tell you there's not going to be a ceasefire. But like, here's the thing, like, it's not going to happen before the election, but it's going to happen because what you're going to see between now and then is all of that start to play out on the stage. So to the point, we're saying the war is over and Israel's saying, no, it's not. We're telling Israel the war is over. They're saying, no, we want to play. So you're going to see us say, no, motherfucker, bitch, listen, you're grounded. Look, motherfucker, bitch, what we have a bigger army than you. Right?
But we don't. We could have done that at any point.
No. Like we do. But the point is that we can be very clear. Like the theme of a new generation taking leadership. This is not a continuation of the Biden administration. We know Biden's a simp for Israel and always has been. Kamala Harris has not been. And she made a very clear point. I have not spent my entire career in Washington, right? I'm not beholden to the same interests, especially those tied to Beltway politics, which are very tied to AIPAC, right? Her husband is Jewish, but not all Jews just default agree with Israel. In fact, a lot of American Jews specifically hate Benjamin Netanyahu. And I'm willing to guess her husband is among them, given that he's a decent human, right? Yeah. So if everything is pointing to Donald Trump is going to lose, because they're making us think it's a horse race because they need us to keep watching for ratings. I think it's not as close as they want us to think it is, because of if I'm putting pieces together, I'm good at patterns, right? Then that's kind of what I'm thinking. Bibi, it's going to be Kamala. Kamala is not beholden to the same people Biden is or anybody else that's ever been president, all right? She's not going to deal with your shit, and you've seen how she neuters men when she talks to them. Benjamin Netanyahu is an insecure man, and he's not going to be able to out-talk Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris is on record saying, if you break into my house, I'm probably going to shoot you. And I believe her.
I have a lot more faith in Kamala.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm cautiously optimistic / hopeful with Harris. But you were confident, and so I like that. I wish I shared it. I do think she'll be better than Biden, but I'm not completely sold. But we'll see. We'll see.
There's a reason I'm confident. If you want to know,
sure.
What is the reason?
It's because the difference between her and established old guard politicians by the time they run for president is that she's willing to move her positions still.
Mhm.
And she probably, as a district attorney in California, as an attorney general in California, and as an age or a senator from California that sat on judiciary, she didn't really deal with foreign policy. She probably doesn't really have strong positions on Israel, and probably her voting record reflects just the dynamics of caucusing in with Democrats in the House, right, or in the Senate. Like, do as Democrats do. Got it. I don't understand this. I trust you. Whatever. Here's my vote. Right. So she's started paying attention to this in good conscience probably only when she became vice president, which has been a time of nothing but hostility and a very like fuck you Benjamin Netanyahu, right? And if she wants to be a different kind of leader, this is like you want something to break the race apart 3 weeks in. Here, this is it, you know.
But
So that's
here's where like I'm not buying what you're selling, because I was kind of like, I was where you are right now.
He was. I was there. I was there. He
at the
was.
start of the campaign. Like genuinely, this is what I was saying, because like she was rhetorically distancing herself from Biden to a certain extent. She's the first one who said, hey, we definitely need a two-state solution. She was the first one to originally call for a ceasefire. She has been a step ahead of Biden this entire way. But then once the convention happened and she denied Palestinian speakers the ability to speak, she repeated the lies and propaganda about Hamas. She very clearly, rhetorically, incredibly so, sided with Israel. And since then, it's just been exact support for what the Biden administration is doing. If what you're saying is true, and she intends to have a substantially different policy on Israel, why the fuck doesn't she just say that? Like, why doesn't she break with Biden right now? Because
she's running in the general election.
But the poll, all of the polling data shows that there is more support for a arms embargo than there is for the current administration policy.
Not if you're trying to win Republicans and moderate voters. No, not if you're trying to win Republicans and moderate voters. And that's what she's trying to do, because this is an issue that obviously the far left is not going to budge on. So she can't count on their votes. And there's literally absolutely nothing American foreign policy can do within the year, even if it's from like when this started, but the year this started to now. I know we want to think that we have the pull, that we could just be like, oh, end it now. No, we can't, right? You have to go through certain diplomatic channels, especially when you have complex diplomatic relationships, right? So, like, if those voters are unmovable and you can't get through to them, you're not going to win with them. You have to win because it's a dire situation. She's got fucking Liz Cheney campaigning with her. She's got Mark Milley. She's got a bunch of Republicans. She's going out on stage. No. But she's doing that for a point. She's not doing that to say, no, listen, she's not doing that to say
breaking with
these are
Biden would be good in that case.
No, it's not, because what is happening here? No, because Biden's position on Israel is Republicans' position on Israel, and like old people vote more than young people, and old people feel very differently about Israel than Palestine than young people, right? So she's trying to win the above 40 vote that would either stay home or vote for Donald Trump begrudgingly. Like she's going after a very specific subset of voters, and that's why she's not saying out loud the things she probably wants to say. She's speaking general election, right? So like, you guys have been grading papers all day. One of the questions that the kids had to answer was basically like, how does a candidate change their approach from winning the nomination to winning the general election? She didn't have to win the nomination, so we didn't get to actually see where her positions would be on those things, with a lot of time to analyze them and chew them. She was nominated and immediately gear shifted into general election. And the correct answer to the question, kids who all got it fucking wrong, is that for one, you're courting your party, which means you speak to the left. You speak to those people. I am the person to represent the party, right? Once you get to the nomination, you move back to the center. I am the person to run America, an America where half of you don't agree with me. So I believe this Democratic Party, but we didn't get to see that, right? So that's like a fair to be skeptical kind of thing. But rest of America, these are the things I'm willing to hear you on.
Yeah,
right?
This is after the convention, John and I had this exact conversation, this exact one, because I said that, you know, when you get the nomination, you sprint to the center. This is what you do, because you've already got people locked up you already have. And but I do. It is. I don't know if it's an easy answer. I really don't. I don't. I can see either one here, especially with the unpopularity of Netanyahu and everything. But the older voters, you're right. The older voters are gonna fall in line with Israel, and she's very clearly made that choice. I mean, she has. Like that's she's not detracting from that. Whether whether
She doesn't
she's
have
correct.
time.
Yeah.
Well, she
It's
doesn't
like
have
it
time
doesn't.
to.
It's like and like I cringe when you mentioned the Liz Cheney thing because listen, I get that you soften your approach, you try to because I saw this poll. It's like it's a shocking number of Americans who say that they believe Harris is too liberal, which is just it's weird for me to see something like that. But that's what she's seeing and she's trying to combat against. And oh shit, what was I gonna say here? Fuck, I forgot. John, throw me a lifeline here. I forgot what I was gonna mention, but something about Harris. But
I don't know what you were going to mention, but I just wanted to bring up that polling data. I have 21 polls here to support the fact that there is more support for a weapons embargo than there is for the current administration policy. But this is a poll of 1,500 voters by the Cato Institute and YouGov showed that
By the
61%.
Cato Institute.
Yeah, this is a right wing fucking organization, right?
Correct. Famous
And
for push polls.
yes,
Famous
but
for
and it
push polls.
shows 61% in Wisconsin, 51% in Pennsylvania, and 56% in Michigan support conditioning aid to Israel on their.
But that's what Biden did, though, right? He did that yesterday. He conditioned aid and for an embargo.
No, he didn't condition aid.
Well, not aid, but I mean, he conditioned weapon support if they didn't play ball.
No. It was very clear. He did not condition aid. He said, "Hey guys, I may at some point potentially have to.
Right.
Please do this."
Well, threatened to.
He
Yeah.
did not. No. They even said, they literally said, "This is not a pretext for conditioning aid. We just would like you to do this." Like, it was the most gentle thing possible. But what I'm saying is, my thing is, like, Biden is a historically unpopular president. And Kathy, you seem to be of the opinion that Kamala is able to play defense, and I don't think so. I think this is a coin flip. And
seriously, wait, like I don't know if you saw, like, I legitimately like jump scared to that. Like,
and we're gonna get into some polling data later.
Yeah.
But the ability to be strong, because the number one attack against her, and you brought up the Fox News interview, and there's an important segment of that where the host, I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head. Brett Baier, that's it. He asked her, he's like, "Hey, over 70% of the U.S. population doesn't think America's headed in the right direction. You guys have been in charge for 4 years. What gives?" And she has no answer to that because she's like, "I'm just Biden 2.0. But showing, hey, I'm willing to break with Biden. I'm willing to be my own leader. I will be change. I will be progress. That shows strength. That shows leadership. I feel like that's more able to get people who weren't going to vote for her out into the streets to vote. And I don't think anyone is going to start voting for Donald Trump because she does that. Like, I don't think there's anyone who's like, I just don't see it. Who wouldn't have anyway.
Here's what I'm going to remind you about this. You're watching that Fox News interview as if she was talking to you in that interview. She was not talking to you in that interview. Who are the only people who watches Fox News?
Old white people.
People who aren't going to vote
white
for her.
people. She's talking to old white people. I'm sorry, and TJ, back me up here if appropriate. I might be wrong, but she's a black woman, and they're old white people. She can't come in guns blazing. "I'm going to change the way we do things in America. I'm going to have a different policy. I'm going to disrupt the world order." She's not going to say that.
I'm not saying this. I'm saying do something different than
yeah,
Biden.
no. But what it means is, like, to do something different than Biden is to do something different than the U.S. government's foreign policy to Israel since 1948. Okay, like, she does, like, to the other question, like 70% of the country say the country's in the wrong direction, and that's been true since 1994. Okay, like, the answer to those questions is that, but she's not going to say that to scare, like, to white people who are scared of a strong black lady, right? You're going to pick the fights that you know you can win. She knows she can't win Palestine. And if she's lost voters because of it, she needs to gear shift away from it. There's literally not enough physical time between her becoming the candidate and the actual election to change foreign policy or publicly take a stance that drastic. It's just, it would cause Herbert much.
Did it, and he massively increased in the polls when it became to
wait, what?
And then the Great Depression destroyed the world.
What did Herbert Hoover do?
No, Herbert Hoover. When fucking LBJ, right? He was
Herbert Hoover was president in like the
The
19.
20s. You know what someone else?
I'm thinking of the wrong fucking person.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
You were
like,
thinking
the
because Herbert
Vietnam
Hoover
War.
brought us the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Like,
the guy who ran the VP who ran Vietnam War.
Nixon was Eisenhower's VP.
He ran against.
He ran against
Kennedy.
Kennedy.
Who ran against Nixon?
Kennedy, and
Not Kennedy.
then Johnson ran against McGovern, and then
Then after Johnson.
after Johnson was Nixon. Nixon
Yeah,
ran
but who
against.
ran against Nixon after Johnson?
Humphrey.
Herbert Humphrey, not Herbert.
Oh, okay. Mhm.
I got my H's mixed up. Humphrey.
That's fair.
I'm sorry. I'm glad we got there. Humphrey, he was with LBJ on the Vietnam War. In October, he broke with LBJ from the Vietnam War, and he gained about like 20 points in the polls after that. He still ended up losing, but it became a close contested election. He was getting trounced. And I think that indicates that you can increase in the polls.
What's hilarious about this, like I have to jump in, I have to interrupt, because what's hilarious about this is he momentarily jumped in the polls 20 points. George W. Bush hit 81% after 9/11. He did something drastic. People responded to it. But what's 1968 and Democrats famous for? It's not losing the election, it's losing their party. Because he did that. He came out, he made a very strong stance. I'm going to change the status quo in American foreign policy. And 1968, the Democratic Convention broke out in riots. The Democratic Party collapsed.
No, but that was
and we
before
saw
he broke.
30 years of Republican domination.
That was before he broke. He was for the Vietnam War at the convention. It was after the convention that he broke with LBJ, and that's when he rose in the polls.
Which is when the Democratic Party split apart and we lost left-wing voters, and therefore the Democratic Party had to march center to find voters, because him, like, it killed the part. Like, that is the moments where the Democratic Party collapsed.
The 68 convention, that was when with McGovern, right? And McGovern and Humphrey, wasn't that when there was a lot of contention within the party? I mean, it was a lot like
RFK had been killed.
And yeah, it was a lot.
The McGovern-Fraser convention. And
yeah,
the super delegates, and that's why we have super delegates.
Yeah, I think the best comparison to that one would be like the closest one was like 2016. That one with Clinton and Sanders crowd, and how like there was a fracture of the party.
Where they
were
booing each other.
Yeah, there was like a lot of fraction right there, and so I don't know.
And that's why we lost in 2016.
Yeah, 1968 has been terrifying to the Democrats since that actual event. Like they've always been worried. What you said, the superdelegates, and why they kept moving there. But I don't know. We've got to move on to different topics. We still have some left. It's 7:30.
That's why I said, I was like, you want to get Israel out of the way. I'm like, you don't get Israel out of the way.
I know. And I don't know if you guys noticed, I didn't say a whole lot that one, because this is
lucky.
Well, Kathy, you said something, and I had a really good joke I wanted to make, and I kept looking for an opening to make it, and then the time for it passed like 15 minutes ago. So then I was behind on the conversation, and I had another thing on that. So yeah, I want to. I want to add one thing real quick with so this is pertinent, I think, before we close out here, because I think this is good. When you guys are talking about, I'm back in the conversation now, folks, but when the United States government is good at killing people, but not necessarily good at, planning the aftermath. Yeah. And I first noticed, I noticed this firsthand when I was in the military, and I was in Jordan, and so my unit was there on the north side of Jordan to protect, from the Syrian civil war from spilling over into our ally Jordan. That's kind of why we were there. I was reading a lot about the Syrian conflict, and I found out that the United States had, we had essentially tried to overthrow Assad back in 2011, the Obama days, in Operation Sycamore Timber, or Timber Sycamore, I forget. But we also had the CIA that was funding, I believe it was the Free Syrian Army, and that was also, had their beef with Assad. But the United States government was also funding Syrian Kurds. And the funny thing about this, well, it was funny to me watching it happen, is that the Syrian Kurds and the Free Syrian Army weren't necessarily allies. They just had a common enemy. So whenever the Syrian Kurds had like an encampment or some territory they controlled, and they moved out of it, or they had exhausted their supplies, the Free Syrian Army would come in and start fighting them. So it was literally that meme where it shows my tax dollars and missiles, and it's like also my tax dollars. It was happening like right in front of me. I was like, oh wow, that is kind of nuts. And so yeah, I wouldn't put it past the United States to have an elaborate plot with this and then just having no idea what happens next. I mean, as we saw with the Mujahideen, we saw how that turned out. So yeah, it's
Well, go all the way back. Like, we were once friends with Stalin, and our plans to get out of it was then the Cold War. Okay, so like we tend to solve war with war. So
show me a problem war can't fix. I gotta tell you, it's like that's what we got figured out there.
America.
Yeah, I think this is actually gonna dovetail right into similar what we were talking about. It'd be a pretty good segue here.